Do they have rituals? Our ancestors, I mean, the ones who lived tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of years ago. Did they gather in the flickering firelight and do things that didn't strictly involve finding food or avoiding being food? It's a simple question. The answer is complicated, but it gets to the very heart of what it means to be human. First, we should probably agree on what a ritual is. It's not just a habit. You brush your teeth every morning. That's a routine. It has a clear, practical purpose. You do it to keep your teeth from falling out. A ritual is different. It's a set of actions you perform in a specific order. But the actions themselves don't have a direct logical connection to the outcome you want. Think about a wedding. People exchange rings, they say specific words, someone in a special robe or suit makes a declaration. Does putting a metal circle on a finger magically bind two people together? No, the power isn't in the object. The power is in the shared meaning everyone in the room agrees to give it. The ritual makes the change real in the minds of the community. It's symbolic. It's about creating and reinforcing a social reality. Rituals are often formal. They have a start and an end. They feel separate from ordinary life, and they are often repeated. Every year we have birthdays. Every week some people go to a place of worship. These repeated actions anchor us in time. They connect us to the past and point to the future. They give life a rhythm. So, when we ask if our ancient ancestors had rituals, we're asking something profound. We're asking, when did we start living in a world of symbols? When did we start trying to impose meaning on the chaos of existence? When did we start needing these structured social performances to hold our groups together? To find out, we have to look for clues on the ground. And we have to be willing to accept that the clues are often faint and hard to read. Before we even get to humans, it helps to look at our animal relatives. We are not the only creatures who engage in patterned repetitive behavior. Watch a pair of albatrosses during their courtship. They perform an intricate dance. They bow, they clack their beaks, they spread their wings in a synchronized display. This isn't random, it's a fixed sequence of actions. This ritualized dance strengthens the bond between the pair. It signals commitment, it ensures they are both on the same page before they invest in raising a chick. Or look at chimpanzees. Jane Goodall observed chimpanzees performing what she called a rain dance. When a storm would roll in, with thunder and lightning, male chimps would sometimes start a wild display. They would hoot and drag branches and charge downhill. They weren't trying to stop the rain. They weren't trying to accomplish anything practical. It seemed to be an emotional, collective response to a powerful natural event. A kind of awe, maybe. It's not a human ceremony, but it's a behavior that steps outside the simple eat, sleep, mate routine. Even more striking is how some animals react to death. Elephants are famous for this. They have been seen visiting the bones of their dead. They will gently touch the skull and tusks with their trunks. They stand in silence. Sometimes they cover the body with leaves and branches. Again, this has no survival benefit. The dead elephant is gone. But the group is not. This behavior seems to be about the social bond. It's a reaction to the loss of a member of their community. It looks a lot like mourning. These animal behaviors are not human rituals. They lack the complex, abstract symbolism we use, but they are the building blocks. They show that the raw materials for ritual, patterned action, emotional expression, social bonding, responses to major life events like birth and death are deep in our evolutionary history. The wiring was there, the stage was set for something more complex to emerge in our own lineage. So let's step into that lineage. We have to go way back, hundreds of thousands of years. Let's talk about a species called Homo heidelbergensis. They were our ancestors and also the ancestors of the Neanderthals. They were smart, they made sophisticated stone tools, they were successful hunters. But were they symbolic? In northern Spain, there's a place called Sima de los Huesos. It means the pit of bones. It's a deep, dark chamber at the bottom of a vertical shaft, inside a cave system. And in that pit, archaeologists found the bones of at least 28 individual Homo heidelbergensis. They're men, women, and children. It's the largest collection of ancient human fossils ever found in one place. But why are they all there? How did they get to the bottom of a pit, deep inside a cave? It doesn't look like a place where people lived. It doesn't look like they were dragged there by predators. The bones are mostly whole. Some researchers believe this was a deliberate act, that these people were dropping their dead down the shaft. For whatever reason, this pit was a designated place for the dead. If that's true, it's a huge deal. Simply disposing of a body is one thing, but bringing body after body to the same special, difficult-to-reach place, that suggests a tradition, a repeated action, a ritual. It suggests that death had started to mean something more than just the end of life. It was an event that required a specific kind of action from the group, and there's one more clue from the pit of bones. Among all the thousands of bones, the archaeologists found only one single, solitary tool. But it wasn't just any tool, it was a beautiful hand axe made of a reddish quartzite stone that was almost unheard of in the region. It was symmetrical and carefully crafted. It stands out. Some have nicknamed it Excalibur. Why was it there? Was it dropped by accident? Maybe. Or maybe it was a deliberate offering. Maybe it was a grave. Good. An object sent along with the dead. We can't know for sure. It's just one object, but it's a tantalizing hint. It whispers of a mind that could connect an object with an idea. A mind that could perform a symbolic act. This was around 430,000 years ago. It's the earliest, faintest suggestion of a human ceremony. Now let's move forward in time and meet our most famous relatives, the Neanderthals. For a long time, Neanderthals had a bad reputation. They were seen as brutish, dim-witted cavemen. We now know that's completely wrong. Their brains were as large as ours, or even slightly larger. They were expert toolmakers, skilled hunters, and incredibly resilient, surviving in harsh Ice Age environments for hundreds of thousands of years. And the evidence that they had rituals is much, much stronger. The most compelling evidence comes from how they treated their dead. All over Europe and the Middle East, we find Neanderthal burials. These are not just bodies tossed in a hole. At a site called La Chapelle aux Saints in France, the body of an old man was found carefully placed in a shallow pit. He was arthritic and had lost most of his teeth. He couldn't have survived alone. Someone had been caring for him, and when he died, they buried him at another site, Shanidar Cave in Iraq. Several Neanderthal skeletons were found. One, known as Shanidar 4, became famous for the flower burial theory. Soil samples taken from around the skeleton contained clumps of pollen from several different types of colorful wildflowers. The idea was that his people had laid him to rest on a bed of flowers. It was a beautiful, poetic image. Now, modern science has cast some doubt on that specific story. It's possible the pollen was brought into the cave by burrowing rodents. But even if we set the flowers aside, the fact remains that these individuals were intentionally buried. Some were placed in a flexed fetal position. Why? Was it to mimic sleep? Was it a return to the womb of the earth? We don't know. But it's not random. It's deliberate. It's a pattern. And that pattern suggests a shared idea about what you do when someone dies. It is the beginning of a funeral. And it's not just burials. Neanderthals seem to have an eye for beauty and symbolism. They collected unusual objects. At several sites, archaeologists have found eagle talons and raptor feathers. The talons have cut marks on them, suggesting they were removed from the bird, and some show signs of being worn, perhaps as a necklace or ornament. Why an eagle talon? It's not food. It has no practical use. But an eagle is a powerful, impressive creature. Wearing its talons might have been a way to represent that power or to identify with the animal. It's a symbol. They also used pigments. They collected lumps of red ochre and black manganese dioxide. They scraped them, ground them into powder, and used them for something. We've found shells with pigment residue in them, like little paint pots. What were they painting? Their bodies? Animal skins? Cave walls? We don't have clear evidence of Neanderthal cave painting like the famous art of later Homo sapiens. But they were definitely using color. And using color for something other than a practical task is a symbolic act. It's about making a mark, about creating meaning. Perhaps the most astonishing piece of evidence for Neanderthal ritual comes from deep inside a cave in Bruniquel, France. About 300 meters from the entrance, in total darkness, someone a very long time ago built 2 large rings on the cave floor. Sure, they didn't build them from rocks, they built them from stalagmites, the stone pillars that grow up from the cave floor. They broke off over 400 stalagmites, weighing a total of 2 tons, and arranged them carefully. Inside the rings, they built smaller structures and made small fires. This was not a home. It was deep, dark, and difficult to access. It served no survival purpose, and here's the kicker: dating techniques show these structures were built 176,000 years ago. The only humans in Europe at that time were Neanderthals. This was their creation. What was it for? We can only guess. Was it a sacred space? A place for initiation rites? A place to tell stories in the flickering firelight. We will never know the details. But we know what it was not. It was not practical. It was deliberate, organized, and communal. And it was a space set apart from the ordinary world, a space built for a special purpose. It is some of the most powerful evidence we have for ritual behavior before our own species came to dominate the planet. The Neanderthals were not just surviving, they were living in a world of meaning. And then came us. Homo sapiens, we emerged in Africa around 300,000 years ago. For a long time, our behavior wasn't dramatically different from that of Neanderthals. We made similar tools, hunted similar animals, but then, somewhere around 70,000 to 50,000 years ago, something changed. Archaeologists sometimes call it the cognitive revolution or the Great Leap Forward. Suddenly, the evidence for symbolic thought and ritual explodes. In Blombos Cave, in South Africa, archaeologists found pieces of ochre engraved with geometric patterns, like cross-hatching. These are some of the earliest examples of human art dating back over 75,000 years. In the same cave, they found tiny seashells, all of the same species, each with a hole punched in it in the exact same place. These were beads. They were meant to be strung together and worn. This is a huge step. A burial is a ritual for a specific solemn event. A hand axe offering is a single act. But a necklace of beads is different. It's personal adornment. It's about identity. It says something about who you are. Maybe it signals what group you belong to or your status within that group. It's a symbol you carry with you as part of your daily life. It shows that symbolic thinking wasn't just for special occasions anymore. It was becoming part of the fabric of society. And then, as Homo sapiens spread out of Africa and across the world, this symbolic culture went into overdrive. We see stunning cave paintings like those in Chauvet, France, or Lascaux. We see small carved figurines like the famous Venus statuettes. And we see increasingly elaborate burials. At a site called Sunghir in Russia from about 34,000 years ago, an adult male was buried covered in thousands of ivory beads made from mammoth tusks. It would have taken thousands of hours of work to make them. In the same site, 2 children were buried head to head, also adorned with beads, spears made of straightened mammoth tusk, and other objects. This wasn't just a simple burial, this was a spectacle. It was a major ceremonial event that involved immense effort from the entire community. But perhaps the most mind-blowing evidence for the importance of ritual in our deep past comes from a place called Göbekli Tepe in modern-day Turkey. It sits on top of a hill and is about 11,500 years old, and it is, for all intents and purposes, the world's first temple. Archaeologists have uncovered massive, T-shaped stone pillars, some weighing over 10 tons, arranged in large circles. The pillars are carved with intricate images of animals, foxes, snakes, boars, cranes. The level of organization and labor required to build this is staggering, and here is the truly revolutionary part: this was built by hunter-gatherers. The old story of civilization was that humans first invented farming. That led to settled villages, which then allowed for surplus food and labor, which finally gave people the time and resources to build temples and develop complex religion. Göbekli Tepe flips that story on its head. The people who built this massive ceremonial center were not farmers. They were still living by hunting and gathering. It seems that the need for ritual, the need for a shared, sacred space, was so powerful that it was the thing that brought people together. It may have been the act of building and gathering at this temple that eventually spurred the invention of farming, because they needed to feed the large groups of people who came here for ceremonies. The drive for ritual came first. The revolution in subsistence came second. So the evidence is overwhelming. Our ancestors, both Neanderthal and sapiens, absolutely had rituals and ceremonies. They buried their dead with care, they adorned their bodies with symbols, they used pigments, and they built special places for communal gatherings. This brings us to the big question: why? What is all this for? Rituals are often costly. They take time, energy, and resources that could be spent finding food or making tools. From a purely practical survival of the fittest perspective, they can look like a waste. So why did they evolve? Why did this behavior become so central to the human experience? There must have been a powerful evolutionary advantage to it. The main advantage seems to be social cohesion. Humans are not the strongest or the fastest animals. Our superpower is cooperation. We can work together in large, flexible groups in ways no other animal can. But cooperation is tricky. It relies on trust. How do you know who you can trust? How do you build a sense of us versus them? Ritual is the superglue of society. When a group of people perform a ritual together, whether it's singing a song, performing a dance, or building a temple, they are moving in sync. They are focusing their attention on the same thing. This shared experience creates a powerful emotional bond. It breaks down the barriers between individuals and melds them into a cohesive whole. Neurologically, this shared action can release endorphins and other chemicals that create feelings of pleasure and belonging. A tribe that performs rituals together is a tribe that trusts each other more. And a tribe that trusts each other more will be much more effective at hunting, gathering, sharing food, and defending itself against rivals. The groups with the strongest rituals outcompeted the groups with weaker ones. The rituals also helped to manage anxiety and create a sense of control. The world of our ancestors was dangerous and unpredictable. There were droughts, floods, diseases, and predators. You had very little control over the most important things in your life. What do you do when the rain doesn't come and your food source is drying up? You can't make it rain, but you can perform a rain dance. Now, the dance doesn't actually cause rain, but it does something else. It gives the group a sense of agency. It feels like you are doing something about the problem. It brings the community together to face the crisis, reinforcing social bonds when they are needed most. It provides a script for how to act in a scary, uncertain situation. This calming effect is hugely beneficial. A group that panics and scatters in a crisis is a group that dies. A group that comes together in a ritual to face the crisis is a group that endures. Another crucial function of ritual is the transmission of information. In a society without writing, how do you pass down essential knowledge from one generation to the next? How do you teach the history of the tribe, the rules of kinship, the maps of the territory, the properties of different plants? You can't just hand someone a textbook. You embed this information in rituals, songs, and stories. Initiation ceremonies for young adults are a perfect example. These are often intense, emotional, and sometimes painful events. The elders teach the initiates the sacred stories and the laws of the tribe. Because the experience is so emotionally charged, the information is seared into their memory. The ritual is a kind of living library, a reliable way of storing and transmitting a group's collective wisdom across generations. Finally, rituals can act as a powerful signal of commitment. Many rituals are hard. They might involve fasting or enduring pain or spending huge amounts of time and energy on something with no immediate payoff, like building Göbekli Tepe. This is what's known as a costly signal. It's easy to say I'm a loyal member of this group. It's much harder to prove it, but if you are willing to go through a painful initiation or spend a month helping to haul giant stones for a temple, you are sending an unmistakable message to everyone else I am committed. I believe in what we are doing. I'm not a freeloader who will run away at the first sign of trouble. This kind of costly signaling builds trust and filters out those who are not truly dedicated to the group's welfare. It makes the social contract real and visible. So when we look back at a Neanderthal placing flowers on a grave or a Homo sapiens carving a bead from a shell, we are not just seeing strange, primitive superstitions. We are seeing the birth of the human social world. We are seeing the tools that our ancestors evolved to solve the fundamental problems of living in large groups, how to create trust, how to soothe fear, how to pass on knowledge, and how to build a shared identity. These ancient impulses are still with us. They haven't gone away, we've just changed the details. A modern sports stadium is a kind of temple. The fans wear the team colors body paint, they sing the team song's chants, and they share in the emotional ecstasy of a victory or the despair of a loss. It binds a community of strangers together. A graduation ceremony, with its special robes, strange hats, and formal procession, is an initiation rite. It marks a transition from one status in life to another. A national holiday, with its parades and fireworks, is a collective ritual that reinforces a national identity. We are the descendants of those people who gathered in the dark around the fire to share a story or a song. We are the descendants of those who felt compelled to bury their dead with care, to place a beautiful object in the grave. We are the descendants of those who hauled massive stones across the landscape to build a place where they could all come together. The need to impose meaning on the world, to create shared realities, and to bind ourselves together through collective action is one of the oldest and most fundamental parts of our nature. They did have rituals and ceremonies. They had them because without them, they wouldn't have become us.